Hi, how is it going everyone? And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at HTML text formatting. Just the typical way of formatting text in something like a word processor. Okay, so we want to learn how to keep text in italics. We also want to know how we can actually make a text look good, even underline and superscript, even that of the subscripts. So we want to learn all of these things. They normally do that in something like word processor. So we want to bring that format, that way that we used to do that with something like a Microsoft Word. We want to learn how to do that in HTML in this video, and it's going to be pretty cool. So let's get right in.
Alright, so we're going to start off by using this particular web page, which is the last video that we built. And if you are just jumping into this particular one, this is possibly the part 4 or part 5 of the series that we'll be building. I will include some links in the description or even maybe at the comment section so that you can actually watch other parts of the video before getting to this one, because you could be confused somehow on how we actually got here. Okay, but if you already understand what all these things are, you can actually join us with this one. You can actually continue with us on this one. What I want to do right now is that we want to start off with that of the board. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, I want to copy this, and I don't even like the way that this roller bar is right now. So what I'm going to do is let me break down this line. Maybe right here I want to break this line down, and also I can also break this particular one down. Okay, possibly let's just keep it this way. Okay, so this is the opening tag and then this is the closing tag. And we can also say the same thing for this particular one. So that's the opening tag and then this is the closing tag. So what I want to do right now is that I want to basically copy this line and then maybe paste it on the next line. Okay, so and if you want to see the code that is actually hidden right there, so these are the code, so it's not too much, you know. So I want to paste the code I just copied right now, and what I want to do is that I want to take away quite a few things that we have right here. So maybe something of this nature. I want to take the font family away, and we could basically actually leave what is in here the way that it is. Okay, so but I want us to actually start off with making the text bold. Okay, bold text like that. We can actually go ahead and do whatever we want to do. So if I refresh the web page right now, you're going to see that we have an extra line right here that says that this is a tutorial on how to actually use HTML styles. And after that, I think there should be a mistake somewhere. I expect to basically okay, this particular line is actually not closed out. So I want to close out this. I don't know how I removed that, but let me just close it like this so that this closes the first one. So if we save and then refresh the web page, you now see that we have just basically this line printed out for us right now. And all we want to do right now is just basically practice on how to make a text actually look bold. So we want to wrap the tag that actually makes a text look bold on this particular text that we have in here. Okay, so let's say something like, to do that in HTML, we just use a B tag. So we can just say B and we can close out that particular B tag in here. And if we save this, you're going to see that that particular text is actually going to appear a lot bolder than it is right now. So if we refresh, you see that it looks a lot bolder. Okay, so that is actually how to make such a special text. Okay, if you want to make a text look bolder, you can actually do that. Let's say that, for instance, you have a very long line of information but you want to like highlight a specific text. So we can just say, let's say this is going to be, before getting to this, we can just say something like, I am, let's say I am a bold text. If I save this right now, you're going to see that from here, this one that said I am a is actually going to appear a lot smaller than the other one. Okay, so you see that I am a is actually a lot smaller in comparison to this bold text that we have in here. So that's just basically how to make a particular text bold, and you can also do it within any of these places that we have in here. So for instance, if you want to include that, maybe we want to wrap that around let's say we'll wrap that around the tutorial. You can actually do B, close that B right there, and down here we can actually go ahead and close that particular tag called B. So if we save and I refresh our web page, you notice that tutorial actually looks a lot more pronounced than the rest of the things that we'll have on that page. Pretty cool. So that's how to make a text look bold. All right, so, and I think that is an extra line of P tag right here. I want to take that away. Okay, so let's save that, and if we refresh, everything still looks just the same. So that was just an extra line of code. Thank God with that right now. So I'm going to copy this and I put it on the next line. And what I want to do is I want to test the strong keyword or tag. Okay, you want to make a text looks a little bit strong. There's a way to actually do that. We're going to make use of what is it called? A tag called a strong, which most of the time it's actually hard to detect the difference between that of the bold and that of the strong. But we're going to just see right now. So it's basically going to look just the same. So what I'm going to do right now is instead of saying I am a bold text, I want to say something like I am a strong text. So I'm going to just say strong text, and I want to take away this B right here. I want you to just see it first of all. Okay, so if I save that and then refresh the web page, you notice that we'll have a line that says I am a strong text. So we want to wrap around this. We want to wrap strong tag around this particular word called a strong, and then see how it's actually going to look. So if we go back, you can actually do that right now by saying strong, and we close that out, and we can actually close. Let's wrap that just around only the word strong right there. Let's close that out. And if we save and then go back to the browser and refresh, we see that the word strong actually looks a lot stronger than the rest of the things that we're having here. Okay, so it's a lot bolder, a lot more pronounced. So that's how to basically do that. And I think that it just does almost the same thing with that of the board. Okay, so it does almost the same thing with that of the board. All right, so the next one I want to take a look at right now is going to be that of the text italic or italics. Some people actually call that italics, but I call that something like italics or italics. Just know that I'm actually trying to mention the same thing. So let's change this from what it is like now to something like italic, something of that nature. Okay, so want to like exercise how it actually feels to have a text in an italic form. That's what we want to do right now. And definitely this is not going to be strong, so we're going to take away strong. And if we want to actually create a word that is italic or italic, what you normally do is to actually pass in the I tag. So let's change this from strong to I, and we need to just basically save that. And if we refresh our web page, you're going to notice something. That part is actually going to appear, but it's going to look this way. Okay, see how that is actually appearing in a slanty form. It's actually not standing straight like other letters that we have on this particular line. Okay, so that's italics. So that's how to keep words in italics. Pretty cool, right? So we can just say something, I am something like an italic text. I am an italic text, something of that nature. All right, so that just sits on how to actually get a word in italics. So the next one that I want to take a look at right now is the emphasize the text. So what I'm going to do right now is I want to copy this paragraph again, get that copied, and I want to paste that down there. So once I have that pasted, what I want to do is I want to emphasize the text. So for that reason, I'm going to take this away and just say something like emphasize. So this is going to be empha. Let's make sure we type emphasized, right? So I am an emphasize the text. Okay, so we want to wrap around this the em tag to see how emphasized this is actually going to look. And I guess that's just going to look like that of the italics. Okay, but let's just try to see that in action. So I'm going to just say em, and I want to close out this right here. So this is going to be em. I will close out that particular tag. Then if we refresh the web page right now, you see that looks just much like that of the emphasized, okay, that of the italics, I mean, except that the font size, I mean, the font family looks a bit different. If you take a look at it very well, it looks like something of that of a sans serif. Okay, so that's just how that is. So the difference between the two of them are just basically the family of the text. Okay, if you take a look at that, it's not the same thing within the way that it's actually carved. Okay, and I think that's also the major difference between that of the strong and that of the bold. You see that the family of the font is actually different. So that is just that on that one. The next one I want us to take a look at right now is called a marked text. So if we go back to our development environment, I want to scroll down, and I actually need to copy this. I don't know if I still have what I copied before, but let me get that copied right now and then paste. And what I want to do right now is I want to have a marked text. So I want to take this away and just say something like marked text. And I want to take away this thing that we're having here. So what we want to put in there is going to be M-A-R-K, which is mark, and we should close that out right here with M-A-R-K, which is also mark. And that's actually going to appear like something like it's going to be basically have something like a background of yellow. And I'll refresh our web page and you see that right there. Okay, so anytime you want to like make a particular text have something like a background, maybe you want to emphasize on something, you want to mark them this way. Okay, you want to wrap around it with marked tag to make it look outstanding this way. Okay, maybe you want to call for an attention. So that's just basically what that is, and that's just that. The next one we want to take a look at right now is actually called a small tag. So I want to copy this, but I guess I still have what I copied before now. So let me paste what I already copied, and what I want to do right now is that so I'm going to just say something like I am a small. So this is going to change to a small. So I want to change this to small. Let's call this small, and I want to take away the tag we have in here instead of what it used to be. I want to change that to small and then call this small, and that is it, guys. So we have that in there. So if we save the changes right now and then refresh our web page, we see that we have a text right there that looks a lot smaller than the rest of the text in here. So most of the time this particular small text is actually used to wrap around things like, let's say, the author name, something of that nature. So if you want to have an author, let's say you have a div where you have the title of a page, it could be something like wrapping that around an author name, or sometimes it's wrapped around that of the date of a publication. Okay, so you can actually use that. Maybe as we move along, you see how to actually use that, so you don't need to bother yourself so much on how to use that right now. But just know that if you want the text to actually appear smaller than the rest of the text that we have in a particular line, you can actually use small tags around. All right, that's beautiful. So the next one I want to take a look at right now is the delete tag. So I'm going to copy this, paste that right here, and then I want to change this to delete. And after this, I'm actually going to use like a nice instance for this. Okay, so but basically what this does is that it's going to like cancel out this particular text that we have in here. I'm going to have a strike around it, okay, across it. Let's change this to del, and we should just change this to del. And if we save and then we'll refresh our web page right now, you notice that if you scroll down, let's just scroll down, and you see that this text is actually cancelled. Okay, so most of the time this is actually used for pricing tables. Okay, let's say for instance I want to copy this line again and then paste that on the next line, and what I want to do, I want to just say that the price of the oil is, and let's say that right here. So the price of the oil is, so I want to add something like, let's say $30 right here, or at $30. It can be naira, whatever currency that you're using. Okay, so I want to have that. Let's just make sure we put that dollar sign at the back of this place, and let's say that it was actually sold at a price of $30, but now we don't want to sell that right now is in a different price. So we can basically say the price of the oil is formally, let's just say formally, something like that, maybe formally. Let's make sure type formally, right? It's formally this particular amount, but now it's actually sold at this particular amount. What I'm going to do right now is just put something like, let's say this is going to be $25. So this is the current price. Yeah, I want to save this right now, and I think I do not actually need this. So yeah, so let's just make sure we save that and then take a look at that to see how it's actually looking. So we have that in this page. If you scroll down, you see that we have something that says the price of the oil is formally $30, but now sells at the price of $25. So that's how they normally put that. Okay, so let's create a space around this. Let's just make sure create a space around here, refresh, see that that is a space away from this place right now. So that's just basically how to actually do that. So I'm quite sure that you have seen some pricing tables that normally come with that. If you check something like Shopify, I see them do that quite a lot of time. Okay, so maybe the price they used to sell a particular thing before, they're going to create something like a strike against it, and then they'll go ahead and then have something like the real price that they're selling it at that particular point in time. They used to have it with no strike around it. Alright, so that's just basically what that is. I hope you get what that really means. And the next one we want to do right now is the one that is actually called the insert or inserted text. So I want to copy this and then paste that on the next line. And what I want to basically do right now is to let's just say something like I am an inserted. Let's put that right here. Inserted the text. Let's call this text like that. And what I want to do basically right here is to include the tag. So if you are working on something like an inserted text, what you want to do is to just basically make use of ins called the inserted. You want to make use of ins as a tag in here, and I want to close that tag right here, ins. If you save this right now and then we refresh our web page, you're going to see that inserted is going to have something like an underline under it. You see that? So it has an underline under it. And however, we also have a way to actually underline text if you want to use something like inserted. Okay, so I think they normally call that something like you. Okay, if you want to do that, it's actually pretty cool. So what I want to do right now is if I copy this line and then paste it on the next line, and instead of using ins right here, I want to use something like you and then close that with you right here. And instead of saying that I'm inserted, I can just say something like underlined, something like that. So if I save this and refresh my web page, I should be able to still see that text show up right there, and it's going to have an underline under it. You see that? So that is another way to actually be able to put text instead of saying inserted the way that we did that. You can actually use u tag to do it. So it's pretty up to you, the one that you want to use. All right, so the next one I want to take a look at is actually called the subscript. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the subscript, and to do that I want to copy this line I think I still have something copied. Let me paste that on the next line. And what we're going to do right now is that I want to, for us to actually demonstrate what this subscript is right now, or could use something like a chemical equation right here. So I'm going to just do something like H2, let's say H2O, which basically represents water. And the way that this is actually done most of the time, what I want to do right now, I want to just put something like an arrow right here. So I'm going to do this and then try to bring in this H2 water right here. Okay, we could just basically also, let's put this, let's do this. I think it's not everybody actually understand what this is. So I want to put this way that it is right now, and right here I want to paste that H2O. But what I want to do is that I want to take away this tag right here. And the way that this normally appear, it appears in such a way that this particular number right here too, actually most of the time, so it appears underneath this particular H, okay, like a subscript, just like the way the name sounds. If I refresh this page right now, you see that it's appearing in a way that it shouldn't actually be. Okay, so we want it in such a way that we should be able to bring down this particular H. Okay, we want to do it on this particular one. We want to bring down this particular to just a very small and then underneath that particular H. So to do that is very, very simple. I'm going to just do this right here. So this is going to be sub, and I want to go ahead and close that right here. So this is going to be sub, and if we save that right now, let's just try and refresh our web page to see how far we've gone with that. You see how it's actually appearing right now. So we're able to bring down that 2 underneath, and this is a chemical equation representing water, and that's actually how they normally write that. Okay, so if you are writing the web page that requires, you should be able to write something like H2 or chemical equations, you should be able to make use of this type of tags to be able to write them and represent them the way that they should be. All right, so next one we want to do, since we have a subscript, we should also be able to have superscript. I believe that's what they call that. So I'm going to copy this line and then paste that on the next line. And so what we'll have in here is water. I want to change this something to, let's say, sodium ion. So this is going to be sodium ion, and I want to represent this particular sodium ion right now. I want to represent it in a way that it should actually be. So normally they normally type it this way. It used to be Na like this, and we should basically like add something like a plus sign, since it's actually a metal right there. So if I add it this way, you see that this is actually sodium ion, but we need to have it in such a way that this should actually be raised to the top of this place, that A that we're having here. Okay, so to do that is actually pretty simple. We just need to wrap around what we call what is it called, SUP or superscript around that particular text. So we want to close that SUP right here, and if we save this and then check that in our browser, we're going to notice something right now. So if we scroll down to see that, you see that we have a plus sign at the very top of that place. Okay, so this is also how you can also write put things in power. Okay, if you want to have something like 10 raised to power 20, let's do that example down there. Okay, I'm gonna copy this and just say, let's say this is gonna be, let's change this from what it is right now to, let's say we want to have something like 10 raised to power 2. If we want to do that, it's really simple. It's just gonna be SUP like that, and you can close that out right here. I think we even basically have that already. So I was supposed to actually, yeah. So this is how it should be. We'll save this page and then refresh. You see that we'll have a new line and we'll have 10 raised to power 2 right there. Okay, so you can actually put it the way that you normally want to put it. Some people normally put something like an X in here to just represent that. Okay, so that's just basically how that is, and I hope that you guys actually get the things that I try to explain right here. Okay, so I want to take it back to 10 raised to power 2 like that, and that should just be it, guys. That should just be it. So I hope you understand the things that I explained in this video, and we'll have a lot more that are actually coming your way.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed that, and if that is actually true, that you really enjoyed that, I want you to hit the like button to this video. And if you are on Facebook watching us right now, you have the ability to follow this page, and if you are on YouTube, that is a red subscribe button right there that you can actually click on and then subscribe to us. Make sure you turn on your notification in all our social media handles, so that every time we upload new videos, new great videos of this nature, you will be notified immediately. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.